All right, we'll give it a minute or two to give folks time to join.
Thank you for having us, by the way.
Of course, we're so excited you're here. This book is so beautiful.
And Gordon, thank you for joining.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Storytime with Greenlight Bookstore. I'm Jessica from Greenlight, and we are so excited to host this very special storytime with authors Ziggy and Orly Marley and illustrator Gordon Rowe presenting their brand new book, Little John Crow, which you're going to hear more about in a minute. Before we start, I just want to say a huge thanks to Ziggy and Marley and Gordon and all of their teams behind them for making this happen, and to all of you guys for showing up. Though we're not able to host events in our store spaces right now, we know that our community of authors and readers is still here, and we're grateful for your support and for the chance to make space for conversation and connection. A couple of housekeeping things. In our Zoom webinar today, you can see and hear the speakers, but they can't see and hear you. They can see that you're here though, and there are a couple different ways you can interact with the authors and with each other throughout today's event, which we highly encourage. The first way is the chat, which you can find by clicking on the icon that looks like a speech balloon. You're welcome to post your comments and thoughts in the chat. We love to hear where you're logging in from, see that you're there, hear any of your ideas or thoughts. It's a great way to interact with the author and with each other. If you do have a specific question that you'd like to ask, please post your question in the Q&A. You can find that by clicking on the icon that looks like two speech balloons, and we'll be pulling questions from the Q&A to answer later in the event. And very importantly, I want to mention that our featured storytime book, Little John Crow, is available for sale from Greenlight Bookstore. We're excited to be able to offer in-person shopping from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at our Fulton Street and Flatbush Avenue location in Brooklyn. And you can buy this book and many other books as well, including Ziggy's other book, My Dog Romeo. You can also order online at greenlightbookstore.com for a quick pickup at the store or for shipping anywhere in the U.S. So if you care about supporting the careers of amazing artists and authors and the ongoing existence of independent bookstore, buying today's featured book is a great way to show your support, and I'll drop that buy link in the chat in a little bit. All right, some introductions, very brief ones. Ziggy Marley is an 8-time Grammy Award winner, Emmy Award winner, author, philanthropist, and reggae icon. He's released 13 albums to much critical acclaim, plus 2 previous children's books, I Love You Too and My Dog Romeo. He's here with Orly Marley, his wife. She's an Australia-born entrepreneur and music manager. Alongside the Marley family, Orly conceptualized and produced the Bob Marley Roots Reggae Tour across the US. And together with Ziggy, she heads Unlimited Resource Giving Enlightenment, a nonprofit organization that seeks to make enduring contributions to the lives of children in Jamaica, Africa, and throughout the world. And Gordon Rowe is a Toronto-born illustrator and designer. Inspired by the cartoons and movies of his childhood, he spent his early years making comics and drawings for friends. These days, he illustrates and art directs for album artwork and editorials, and this is his first children's book. So these 3 amazing artists created today's featured book, Little John Crow, a story filled with humor and memorable characters that reminds us of the importance of accepting our differences and that life offers a place and purpose for all of us. So Ziggy and Orly are going to start us off with a reading from the book, and after that we'll hear from Gordon and see some of the images that he created, and then they'll all be in conversation together, and we'll take some of your questions at that point. So you are in for a real treat this morning or this afternoon. Ziggy and Orly, please take it away.
Hey, thank you. Good to be with you guys, and we're going to be reading the first part 1 of Little John Crow. Here we go. Part 1, Bull Bay. This is a story about Little John Crow, a young vulture who lived in Bull Bay at the edge of the Blue Mountains on the island of Jamaica in the Caribbean Sea. From the time he could waddle before he could even fly, Little John Crow would disobey his parents, ignore their warnings, and find a way to go outside of the cave where they lived to play with his friends.
One bright morning, before his parents were up, Little John Crow sneaked outside to be with his best friends, Hummy the hummingbird, who loved sweets, George the wise old snake, Missy the French pigeon, Shaqueen a feisty chicken hawk, and the 3 little birds who sang and did everything together. After running around and playing games for a while, Little John Crow and his friends were tired. So they sat down near a cool river and had a rest. While taking turns drinking from the river, they started talking about their parents' jobs and what they wanted to be when they grew up.
My parents are world travelers, jet setters really, Mr. the Pigeon proudly proclaimed in a French accent. I'm going to be just like them. Voila. I want to grow up and save lives, just like my parents, George the Snake hissed. You mean take lives, quipped Shaqueen the Chicken Hawk, who had the smartest mouth in the group. Just the sweet nectar of hibiscus for me, just like Mom and Pops, declared Hummy the Hummingbird. It's so yummy. We're already what we want to be, sang the three little birds in a beautiful melody, the sweetest harmonizing trio in the world. Ah, who cares, squawked Shaqueen. I'm just gonna be me.
Then it was little John Crow's turn. But he didn't know what his parents did. You see, little John Crow was the youngest of his friends, and his parents were waiting for him to be a little older before they explained what they did. Little John Crow didn't even know what it meant to be a vulture. Guys, he said, I'm too young to know those things. You're never too young to think about the future, sang the three little birds in perfect harmony. This is a great mystery, hissed George the Snake. We will help you find out what your parents do. The others agreed with George and joined together to help little John Crow figure out what his parents did and what great things he would do once he grew up. They all agreed to embark on a quest to find out what little John Crow's future held in store for him.
The friends left the river and climbed up the perfect viewing spot, a steep hillside in the Blue Mountains overlooking the cave where little John Crow and his family lived. There, they could peer down into the valley and see everything that was going on below. Very quickly, the mystery of little John Crow's parents' vacation was solved. The friends gasped as they watched two large vultures fly across the sky and swoop down, hunting for food below. John's parents aren't regular birds, stammered Hummy. They are vultures. Gross! That's not very glamorous, is it? Exclaimed Missy the French pigeon. Shh, said George, who was the first to notice that the two vultures had turned around and were heading straight for them. Scared out of their wits, they all ran away, except for Shaqueen, who kept a cautious distance, and little John Crow.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad, said little John Crow excitedly. What are you doing out of the cave? Asked Mr. Russell Crowe, John's father. My friends and I, John started to say, but when he turned around, he found that his friends were nowhere to be seen. Even Shaqueen had quietly slipped away. Get back to your cave, son. Mom and I will be back very soon with your breakfast. And without thinking anything of it, John headed home.
The next day, as soon as his parents had left for work, John once again snuck out and went looking for his friends. Hummy! George! Shouted the little vulture, but he couldn't find anyone. Not by the river, not by the big rock shaped like a bull's head, and not by the old mango tree. Where could they be, he wondered. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, Shaqueen appeared. Hey, little Johnny, what's not cooking? She joked. Where is everyone? John asked. Why won't anyone come out and play? You don't know, do you? Shaqueen responded. Know what? The 411, the intel, Shaqueen said. This may be news to you, but you're going to be a scavenger, dude. A low-down, dirty, scary, evil vulture. And honestly, I think it's cool. Evil? Scary? What do you mean? John asked. What do vultures even do?
Oh, they do some nasty stuff. Some stinky stuff, too, Shaqueen answered. The only thing most vultures eat are dead animals. A vulture's only friend is another vulture. Present company excluded, of course. You don't scare me, little John Crow.
Well, what if I don't want to be a vulture? Maybe I can be something else. I can be an eagle, John declared as he lifted his wings, trying to imitate a mighty bald eagle. Nope, still a vulture, said Shaqueen. What about a cute, colorful parrot? John asked, doing his best parrot impersonation. Nope, you're still a vulture, insisted Shaqueen. What about a peacock? Really? Well, no matter what, I will never ever be a scary old vulture, said Little John Crow.
After his talk with Shaqueen, John gave up looking for the other friends and headed back to his cave, feeling very sad. He was afraid he would never get to play with them again. "What's wrong, Little John?" asked his mom, Mrs. Cheryl Crow. When she saw the expression on his face, "My friends don't want to play with me anymore because I'm going to be a scary, stinky, evil vulture like you and Daddy. And I don't want to be a vulture, Mom." Tears run down Little John Crow's face. "John Crow, listen to me and listen well. You are a vulture and you should be proud of who you are," Mrs. Cheryl Crow explained. "We are all here for a purpose. We're all connected. We are all important. Even vultures. Your friends will accept you for who you are, as long as you accept yourself first. Besides, we don't need living animals, only dead ones."
The next morning, Little John Crow stayed in the cave while his parents went off to work, flying a few miles away to where Farmer Badson lived with his wife, Evelyn, and their daughter, Darling. Farmer Badson was up early, feeding his farm animals, when he noticed that his prize goat, Jolly, was missing. Farmer Badson immediately went off in search of Jolly. He didn't have to look too long before he came upon a scene that made him very unhappy. Little John Crow's parents were doing exactly what vultures are supposed to do. But Farmer Badson didn't see it that way. He lost his favorite goat and he blamed Little John Crow's parents. What he did next was very upsetting.
Back in the mountains, the animals could hear the sounds of struggle echoing in the distance. Shaqueen, who was standing by the old mango tree with George, Hummy, and Missy, decided to see what was going on for herself. "I'll be right back," she said as she flew off. And almost as quickly as Shaqueen had taken off, she returned. Little John Crow had also heard the commotion and knew something wasn't right. So he ran from his cave to the mango tree where his friends usually played. When he got there, he saw that everyone was talking all at once. "What's going on, guys?" asked the little vulture. Everyone except Shaqueen turned around and slowly walked away without saying a word. Shaqueen flew over and landed next to John.
Sad news, Buzzy. Your parents, well, they're gone. Farmer Badson did a very terrible thing. I'm sorry, Little John Crow, but you might never see them again. Why? Asked John. Nobody likes vulture, Buzzy. It's just a fact of life. These days, even blood-sucking vampires are more popular around here than vultures. What? Exclaimed John. "I'll forget it," said Shaqueen. "Just be careful, Johnny boy. I wouldn't want what happened to your parents to happen to you." Feeling unloved, alone, and unwanted, Little John Crow quietly decided to leave the hills of Bulby and the only home he'd ever known, promising to himself to never return. "Where are you going?" asked Shaqueen as she watched her friend head off. "Nowhere," answered John as he disappeared into the shadows. And that's the end of part one, guys. He disappeared into the shadows.
Thanks, Ziggy and Orly, for that wonderful reading. If you want to find out what happens in part 2, you can buy the book. And so for another perspective on this picture book, on this beautiful creation, we are going to hear from Gordon, who's going to show us some images and talk a little bit about the visuals. Go ahead,
Yes.
Gordon.
Hey, first, I just want to say happy to be here. Very grateful for Ziggy and Orly for letting me be a part of this. It was really a lot of fun working on this. And yeah, I guess I'll start with some of my process on coming up with the designs and whatnot. So to start, I always make a mood board, which is kind of just a collection of drawings and photographs of like how I want the book to look, and just like inspiration and whatnot. One of my biggest inspirations was Graham Bass's The Watering Hole, which is from this little image right here. I think the hardest part for me was not doing a very super hyper realistic style, which is what I usually do, and doing something a bit more digestible, more cartoony. But that part of the journey was really enjoyable. Yeah, and I guess from there we can start looking at actual designs. Yeah. So this is like a full spread of the Blue Mountains. I actually got to take some photos when I was there backpacking back in 2017, and this is one of them. Where should we start? Oh, so here is John Crow. Yeah, as like a baby vulture. This was the original design. It was, I think the hardest part was making vultures in general. They kind of have a bad rap. It's the way they look. So the hardest part was making it look really cute. And and I had a lot of fun doing that. And these are some of the earlier designs. Originally, I kind of designed him to look, when he grew up, a combination of what his father and his mother looked like, more of a realistic approach. But Ziggy let me know, hey, it's a fantasy book, you can do whatever you want, and told me to make it look more like a king vulture, which I'm glad, because it's so colorful and majestic looking, and it really helped pull everything together. Here's a little quick shot of the parents. So yeah, for the parents, I basically just took, generic vulture designs and kind of just put it together. I kind of wanted the dad to look a little more intimidating than the mother. Have the dad be more, yeah. And the beak is kind of just like, pursed lips. And another thing, when I was designing the characters, I didn't really tell anybody this, but I came up with very elaborate backstories for everybody that wasn't included in the book or anything like that, just so I can have something to work with. So, for example,
Wait, we need those. We have to print that. What?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly, most of it. For example, my favorite design was Rude Boy. Yeah. So I based his design off of Griffin Vulture, which is one of the biggest vultures. From the descriptions I got from the book, he was the taller, more lankier one, so I thought that was a good fit. But for him, his backstory was he was like a big fan of like pop culture, and he would hang out on like hip hop sets in Jamaica or like reggae sets, and like be used in like music videos. And then they eventually gave him, a gold beak to fit in better with the style and everything. So he's very well read. Further in the book, in part 2, my favorite part, you can see him like reading from like a magazine. So that's all part of his character. Another one, Bubbler. He's kind of the wild card in the group of vultures that John Crow meets. Spoilers later in the book. And the way I saw him, he was kind of just like a misfit who got picked up by his other two friends, Rude Boy and Pat, and he kind of doesn't really have a backstory. No one really knows where he came from. He kind of just popped up out of nowhere and didn't really know how to take care of himself. So the other two kind of took him in. Again, all this isn't in the book. This is kind of just stuff I just made up, just so I can, play around with the characters and whatnot. Another one I had a lot of fun coming up with was Jaqueen. I gave her a little faux hawk, because like a hawk with the mohawk kind of thing. And I actually I didn't tell Ziggy this, but I kind of low-key designed it after Orly a little bit, the head wraps. And
Okay.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
Feisty.
Thank you.
yeah. And she was one of the more like interesting characters. She had all the funny lines. So
Yeah.
I thought it would be really interesting to, really play
Yeah.
along with her character more and, make
Thank you.
her, more of a memorable character. What else can I show? Um, the covers. So there's a lot of covers. I got a lot of cover ideas. Um, and this is the one on the left. This is the one we went with. And this was initially going to be the back cover. It was one of the runner-ups for the front cover, but we ended up putting it in as one of the last pages.
Mhm.
And this is probably my favorite drawing in the whole book. I spent
Yeah.
at least a week like going
Amazing.
back and forth between different compositions and details and stuff. And there's a whole other version that'll probably never see the light of day, but I'm really really proud that this version got out. Um, and some of the other covers that didn't make it. Um, well, I can go with this one first. Actually, this one is just around the inside, and I was really inspired by Winnie the Pooh. Um, by the way, they did this sort of secondary cover. It's like a very watercolor approach. Is what I was going for. Like a very light design um, with like very muted colors. And the other covers I mentioned earlier. Um, yeah,
Ah,
Oh
I
yeah, these
remember
were the
that
scary
one.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We're like, no,
So
no, no, Gordon.
yeah, because I mean, you asked me to do like a scary one and like a happy one. So I kind
Yeah.
of I do
Oh
agree. I
my
kind of
gosh.
went a little deep into the scary in the dark.
Yeah.
So a little too dark. I understand. But I really did like this one too, this lighter one. So I
Mhm.
ended
Hmm.
up putting it further in the book
Hmm.
as like a little portrait. I can show you that. Um, yeah, this is like later in part two. I ended up putting a little vulture culture poster in there. Um, but yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of the book. I'll take that down,
Okay.
and then these are just little leftover assets. Some of them made to the book. My plan was to have the feathers kind of tell how the story was progressing. So this smaller feather is kind of like a representation of a young John Crow on his own mentally, and by the end of the uh, first part, physically as well. And then beginning of the second chapter, he gets introduced to three other vultures. So this is representation of three feathers. And in the third part, when he's grown, I illustrated a fuller feather, like an adult feather, to show that he'd grown and he'd learned um, from his life experience. Yeah. Um, and as far as what I think I'm allowed to show so far, um, yeah, I think that's it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think
Some.
it's so interesting that you have stories in your head about these characters because we've been actually looking at Gordon's work for years before we were blessed and lucky enough to have him work on John Crow. And I always felt like the texture and everything that he puts out there felt like there is a whole thing happening in his head. And so it's interesting that you're telling us that you created these stories that you never told us about because it really is when you look at all your work as a whole, it does feel like there is stuff going on. Like you see a whole story in your head about a character beyond
Yeah.
what everybody else sees. That's
Yeah.
your
That's something
imagination.
something I got out of animation school. One of my really great teachers, Scott Capel, uh, he taught me that you should have that kind of backstory for everything you do, even like the buildings you construct. To see you, it kind of gives everything a story that you can work from, and you can draw small
Mhm.
elements that aren't really major plot points or anything, but it gives a a purpose for the character's actions.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man, great work. I love it.
Yeah, this page was really sad. I kind of got myself into a sad place to do this one. Kind
Yeah,
of like really express the, the feelings of being left out and
yeah.
all that. And then again here, with the kind of the look on his face and Shaquin's face, and yeah, again, I'm really, really grateful I got to work on this. This was so much fun. I got to do so many drawings. Not all of them that made it. I actually had a way sadder version of this page.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really sad. It was just a picture of John Crow, and it was like the whole jungle was kind of like falling on top of him,
Yeah.
and he was kind of like crouched over, like really sad. It was like really, and I put like a speech bubble over his head saying nowhere, to kind of like really illustrate like how alone he was feeling. But I felt it was too dark for a kid's book. I feel like
Yeah.
I didn't know
back.
yeah, yeah, definitely did a lot of that.
Yes. You did an exceptional job, Gordon. Really beautiful, beautiful illustrations.
Thank you.
Fit perfect, yeah.
So good. Way
Perfectly.
beyond even what we imagined. So I feel like it just created a whole world around John Crow. So
Thank you.
beautiful.
Yeah, again, just
Classic.
grateful for the opportunity.
Classic,
Mhm.
Longevity. So it has longevity, the art, Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all the art that you've created looks like something that was here a long time ago. Like it's all really, really just so the textures, and it just tells a whole story. I mean, everything you've done like is very, very uh has so much like so much grainage. Is that a good word? Like it's just so like a whole world. When you do people's faces, you can like really look and you see like just everything. It's really, really amazing. So
Thank you.
little John
Yo,
Crow
what
was
this one?
lucky.
I always wonder about this. What's this? Explain this one here to me. God.
So yeah, so that one actually started as I was using it. You guys asked me to do a portrait of you guys, and it started as a heart.
You right?
So I wanted to make a heart out of branches and leaves and life, really. And then as I was like just doing fine details and stuff, I realized it kind of looked like a set of wings.
Uh-huh.
So then I just added the head and
Oh.
turned it into a vulture. And then I realized there was a really strong correlation between how a vulture consumes and life. So like just the whole like circle of life idea and how important, because we all know there's a bad stigma attached to vultures, and everyone kind of has a perceived notion about them, but they're really necessary in the way life evolved on this planet. So I thought it would be interesting to like, introduce an abundance of life as a symbol of the vulture.
See, I see. Yeah. I got it now.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Gordon, for sharing all of those images. Do you want to go ahead and end the screen share, and then we can kind of bring
Yeah.
everybody on screen so we can talk a little bit more about the book? Let's get all right, so the audience can see all of us at one time. So I wanted to, so if folks in the audience have questions for Gordon and Ziggy and Orly, you can just drop them in the Q&A, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But I wanted to start out by asking you guys if you could talk about kind of the origin story of this book, like what inspired you to tell this story and to tell it in this way.
Hey, what inspired me to tell a story was like, I don't know, I guess I grew up with turkey vultures around me as a child growing up in Jamaica. And then, I was reading about some of them are endangered. And I just feel like to bring that to light, the importance of them to children, to let them understand these animals and their role in our ecosystem and the importance of them, and to put them in a light of being the hero, and being loved and being adorable and being something that we should appreciate. Because I didn't appreciate them when I was young. I used to hate them. We used to like throw stones at them. But as I grew, understand that, oh no, these birds are like, they're very necessary. And doing my research, I realized that even back in the past, they were almost worshipped. They were adored back in the Egyptian times. So it's just like, let me help to lift up this animal and this creature, and let me help to give kids an idea of what the importance of what these creatures are to us as human beings. So that's really where it comes from.
And so
And to
what was
bring
the,
it to bring it to the kids' day-to-day lives, to accept yourself, to love yourself as you are, to understand that we all have a purpose in this world. Everybody, deserves a seat at the table. Everybody
Value, yeah.
is valued. So, like, the bigger sort of idea is that, everybody in this world deserves to be loved and accepted and adored. So,
I love that. So can you guys talk a little bit about what your collaboration was like? What all three of you, how did you work together on the writing, and then how did you work together with Gordon on creating the art and bringing the whole book together?
Yeah, well, the writing, it took a while, and I think last year with the quarantine, we kind of like, we got a lot of time off where we weren't doing anything to really dig into the book. So yeah, I've been writing it, and Orly has been giving me her input and her ideas, because Orly, she used to educate children. She was a child educator, and so she has a good perspective on like the ideas and the general direction of how you impart something to a child. She's very good at like having all kids, no matter who her kids are or whatever. If there's a group of kids here, she has a language that she speaks, and they move and they do whatever. She has she's very skilled at that. So her knowledge of that really helped the book. And then my specific of my upbringing and my experience with vultures and how I grew to know them and stuff like that. We put all of that together and created the book. And then looking for artists to illustrate it.
we've been
Yeah,
looking at Gordon's work for a while, long time, actually years,
yeah,
and really like we've been talking about what would be a good opportunity to work with him as an illustrator, and this book felt like it was the right one because it had enough meat to it and substance. So we were really, really lucky that he was available and he really dug in. And
yeah. And Gordon can relate, because we have
Yeah.
we have similar backgrounds, so he knows.
Hmm.
He knows the story. So he
Yep.
can relate. So it was a very good connecting up with him, and having him work on this was like the perfect. It's perfect. It's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
I mean, even when you look at some of the, frames, the way he frames some of the stuff is so thoughtful, and, everything just kind of flows. It's beyond just like illustrating a book, it's actually creating a whole
It's
world.
art. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that this character lives in. It's, and it transports you. Like when you open this book, for me, I feel transported into like this crow's super sad life. Everything is dark. It's beyond just like illustrating a book, it's creating a whole world around the illustrations. So we're really,
And
really,
Gordon can tell you how we worked it. I mean, he would send stuff and be like, "Yeah, I love that."
Yeah.
Or he will try this out. Gordon can tell you more about his process and our work together.
Yeah. Geez, yeah, it was such a great experience. Like you guys are like, for starters, you guys are amazing communicators. Just being able to uh, give you guys like my ideas and then getting feedback at a really fast pace in my opinion, like within my experience, that was really exciting. So what happened was I just got the script, and then I read the whole book. Then I had a little bit of time to come up with some character designs and some storyboards, and then we just went from there. But I will say, after reading it for the first time, I was like, this is like a match made in heaven. Like, this is like perfect. This is like equally parts dark and equally parts learning experience. Some beautiful lessons are in the book. A lot of things that I struggled with, like growing up as a kid, like having a place in the world and belonging somewhere and knowing my purpose. All these things I feel like so many people can relate to. And again, it's not just for kids. It's I try to design it in a way where it would be accessible for all kinds of people. I have some friends who are like deathly afraid of birds. So I really tried to design all the animals in a way that didn't come off as intimidating. Even the small three little birds, yeah, but it was such a great experience, just getting the feedback and trying different things. Yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah, it's clear that this is like a labor of love for all of you. It's such a beautiful project. Do you feel like you have a sense of your influences in the art or in the writing? What were other stories or other characters that you were thinking of that like came to creating these characters in this process in this story?
God not army. God, now you that army.
I could answer that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I kind of based a lot of the designs off of parts of myself. So like John Crow, he was probably the only, yeah, out of everyone that I designed, I didn't do too much. I didn't do too much research on how that kind of bird, like how the king vulture like works within like its community kind of thing. I really just based it off of my life experience. It was so close. It was really strange. Like after reading the script, it was like, wow, this could be like about me or my brother or or some other kids I knew on the block. But overall design wise, like I said earlier, Graham Base, he did the water hole. It's like a counting book for kids. That was like one of my favorite books growing up. And a lot of the design elements and just the way I kind of like built how I placed the pages, how I placed the illustrations like on the pages, how I kind of like went for like a rough look on the edges was kind of a contrast to what he had done, which was very, very structured and very just construction in a completely opposite way. So I just wanted to make a different kind of book than what I was originally. But I felt like I could have went one way. I just forced myself to do it like my own way and do it a different way, to not, to be different.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I grew up hearing stories. I mean, when I was little, we didn't get read books, but we got told stories a lot. So our stories, my grand aunt, who we would be with most of the times, and a lot of times in Jamaica, we had power cuts. So the power would go out, and then we would light our lamps, and then my grand aunt would tell us stories. So I love storytelling. And so I think a lot of what I put into this book is what I got from her telling us stories. Not so much about reading books, but just, telling how to tell a story, like by your mouth, not even by reading, but just by how she speak it and how we experienced the realness of what she was telling us. That's what I kind of draw from in trying to put together my ideas into the book.
He loves to tell scary stories. I'm the book reader. I like to read books from the library.
It's a good balance. It all goes into the plot. I love that. So one of the first things I thought of when I saw the title of this book is Akashic Books, who publishes this book. They're a great Brooklyn-based publisher. We love them. One of their first books was a novel called John Crow's Devil by Marlon James. It's also set in Jamaica. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what that means, John Crow.
Oh, John Crow? Yeah, no, yeah, John Crow, like, this is the proper way that, this is the English way, little John Crow, but in Jamaica we say John Crow. John Crow, so we call him John Crow. And tell you the truth, I don't know why. I don't know why we call him John Crow. That we grew up just hearing, that's the name we call the vultures, John Crow. I have no idea why, actually. I'm sure there's some kind of spooky, sinister reason.
For sure.
John Crow, I don't know who John Crow is or where he came from, but I know it has some kind of weird beginnings.
Stay tuned.
But I don't know. I have to research that some more. God, you know anything about that? I don't know. John Crow, where it come from?
Yeah, no, I didn't know. It was just the same as you. It's just the name for vultures.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what we call them. They didn't tell us why. They didn't tell us nothing. That's what we call them.
Yeah, that's just what we call them.
We have no idea.
Yeah.
That's just what you call
But that's what we call him, John Crow. I need to find out that now. No, that
We'll ask.
I'm gonna check that out deeper. We never thought about it.
Yeah. And it seems like some of the other names in the book, it seems like you were having fun with. They were kind of like some jokes and stuff. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the other ones, them I could definitely like. Yeah, we, some of them based upon friends I knew, like some of the characters and how they are. Yeah, and just like I like a little, I like comedy too. So I like for other little. I can be a little smart mouth guy, I have that kind of ability where I kind of like have cheeky things I'd say.
Bubbler is a good story.
Bubbler? Yeah, Bubbler, I mean, yeah, the keyboard player called Bubbler. So
he was really funny. He was a funny guy. His email was original
Bubbler. Oh, we can't go to him email.
I'm sure it's not the same anymore.
So yeah, some of these characters are based upon friends of mine and people I knew.
That's awesome.
His band members all have funny, like they're all characters. So it's Bubbler was a good one.
Yeah.
And the three little birds, obviously, the eye trees, right?
Yeah, from
perfect harmony.
I mean, using the three little birds is just paying a little homage to my father, and
mother.
Almost everything I do, yeah, mommy, everything I do, there's a little tinge of pay and respect to my father. I'm a parents in it, so that's a little bit of putting a little bit of that in there too,
I love that. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to take a couple questions from the audience, but it's not too late if you want to drop a question in there. But we've got this one from Charles Young. He's in Arizona, and he says, "Hi Zig and wife Orly. How long did it take you to write the book, and when did you have time to write a book with your very busy schedule?"
It took us years. I mean, yeah, it took us years. I mean, it took us a while. We weren't in no rush though. We were not rushing to do it, so we're just doing it at our leisure. But last year, we had the most time we ever had together.
Ever.
Because usually I'm on tour and stuff like that. So last year we were quarantined, and I think Orly was like, "Yo, let's finish this book. Come on, Ziggy, let's get this book done." And so we kind of buttoned it down and I just started writing more and hey, check this out, and we finished it last year. But it took as long as it took, man. It took a long time.
Over a year.
Yeah, more than a year. I mean, how long?
2 years.
When did we start? 2 years? About 2 years. Yeah.
I mean, some of the blessings of spending so much time together as a family for us was just doing projects together. More family time was a record that we worked on, and this book as well. So you have to look at some of the positive of the good things that came out of these awful couple of years.
So did you guys have the script was totally done before you handed it off to Gordon, or did it change? Did it adapt a little bit? How long?
It constantly changed up to the last minute. I mean, yeah. But Gordon got the good. Gordon got the good idea what it was, and then we kind of do some tweaks here and there.
Yeah. Small.
And even though I read it, I like, oh man, I should have done this. I should have did that. I'm always like, oh man, but
yeah, me too.
It's good as it is still.
And Gordon, how long were you working on the art from you first saw the script to turning it in final work?
So I guess from November 2020 to around, uh, yeah, I guess until April, May, yeah,
Yeah,
around
like
April.
6 months.
Yeah, yeah. I actually did, yeah, I did a first version very quickly, and I realized I could be doing so much more in expressing these characters. So I took a little bit more time after and kind of did the whole book again.
Mm-hmm.
So some pages that made it uh, to the second draft, but most of it was from I think I started again um, like at the beginning of February. Yeah. So yeah, pretty long process. One of the longest projects I've worked on. Um, but again, it was such a fun ride.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
feels like an evergreen project in the sense that I love to look at, because I have a 16-year-old and a 5-year-old. So sometimes I'll bust a book out of his library that like my 16-year-old used to read when she was, we used to read to her when she was like 4
Mm-hmm.
or 5. And I love to read books, and I love to see like, oh, this story is still super relevant, or like I could see something like this in 10 years, 20 years. It's not going to go out of style. Like it's evergreen and feels really, really sort of classic. So I love that.
It's funny because no, I'm looking at the book, I mean, I've been working on it, but now I'm looking at it. I see so much things that's so cool that Gordon did that I'm kind of like noticing on each part. There's like something like there's some little trinkets there that is so cool in the book. I'm not really like, oh, let me look at it now that we're talking about it. Kind of stuff like these little things that, oh yeah, it's lovely. Classic, man, a classic, very classic.
You can see new things every time you read it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of really small little Easter eggs I put in there.
yeah.
That
It shows.
I love that. Do you guys feel like
I also,
go ahead.
oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, I also kind of designed it. I have four nephews. One's 2 years old, and the oldest, I think he's 19 now. So I kind of designed it for it's meant for 6 to 11s, but I kind of designed it for everyone, so a little baby could learn to read with it. I learned how to read with some pretty difficult books because I just loved reading. So I kind of wanted to make it for everybody in a way, so it's like very digestible for everybody.
Yeah.
I hope
I love that for all of you, how the kids in your life have kind of like influenced how you're making this project. It sounds like as parents and as with your nephews.
Oh, for sure. We definitely read different versions of this book to the kids and asked for their opinion. And there's certain things in the book, like, I don't know if you have any kind of Caribbean, the Aki is like, okay, hold on. So Aki and saltfish is, a very traditional.
Aki, it's the national fruit of Jamaica, so.
And the flower.
Hibiscus, yeah. All them things
National
there.
flower. So, if you have any Caribbean sort of background, there are certain things that you'll notice that, maybe the kids may
And
not.
the hummingbird is our national bird too. So
yeah, the Dr. Bird.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Bird.
Yeah.
Dr. Bird. Yeah.
So cool.
So it's cool.
So here's a
Little-
question
little
from
trinkets.
Kia. From Kia Ash, I was wondering about this too, but Kia says, "Love the story. Can we expect more books or possibly animated short films of the stories?" I was saying to Gordon, these look like they remind me of animation. You could imagine them that way. So I'm curious if you guys have thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, we're open to the idea of doing that, but we'll see. We know it's not. This is what's here. This is the focus, and I mean, I love books. I think books are much better than stuff on the screen. So this is if that happens, it'll be great too to tell the story in that form. But I don't think we were thinking about that when we're doing the book. We're just thinking about doing a great book. But the work that Gordon did push it to that kind of, oh wow, this could be a it's God to make that story, that thing coming up now with the artwork. Like, wow, this could be, you know. But right now, we just love it as a book, you know.
Absolutely.
So as we get ready to wrap up, I wonder if each of you could say a little bit about, what you hope readers take away from this, whether they're the children who are encountering it or parents who are reading it to their kids. What do you hope they get out of this book? On the first reading, on the 10th reading, whatever. What do you want them to take away?
I mean, for me, it's self-acceptance and self-love, um, and just loving yourself and appreciating yourself and being confident in who you are. I feel like when I see, um, our kids and their friends and all the struggles that some of them have gone through, especially in the past couple of years, um, from the outside, you could see these kids and they're perfect and they're smart and they're getting good grades and they're they're healthy, but then on the inside, there could be so much going on and so many sort of struggles. So for me, this book, in a way, is sort of just like lifting them up and helping them love themselves. And that is sort of where I when I read this book, that is what I want others to take away from it. Just loving yourself, accepting yourself, and being confident in who you are. That's my
Yeah, man. I mean, there's levels of lessons in here. You know what I mean? There's the idea of like people accepting other people. You know, animals accepting other. Even though I'm a vulture, why you don't want to be my friend because you think vultures are dirty and whatever? Well, hey, vultures are cool too. You know what I mean? Just because I'm a vulture, don't mean you gotta be hating on me because I'm a vulture. You know what I'm saying? You know? So that type of stuff is in there. I mean, and for as Orly said, for the individual like myself, we all been through it. You know, I wrote a song called "True to Myself" because we all go through that struggle of at one point we have to realize, man, I gotta be true to myself. What whether it be whatever you're going through in your life or whatever it is, it's always important to find your true self. And the best life you live is when you're true to who you are. And so lessons like that is in it. And being true to who you are, I mean being the best of who you are too. Not being anything, but being the best of who you are as a human being or as a vulture. And finding value in yourself and understanding no matter if people put you down, you must know that your existence is as important as anybody else's existence. You're not less, you're not more, we're equally here as beings, as creatures, as a part of nature, and we must accept each other as being of equal value to the community,
we're both immigrants. Our children are first generation Americans. And English is my third language. I definitely struggled coming to a foreign country. And I mean, you came here as an adult, but like, I was 14. So stories like this are very empowering, I feel like, for all. Sorry, it sounds like something
Well,
needs to
it's
be
fine.
charged. uh, Stories like these are very empowering for all kids, but especially for immigrant kids or first generation Americans. So
Gordon, what about you? Anything to what you hope folks would take away from the book?
Yeah, I mean, Ziggy and Orly, they really said everything I was thinking. I'd like to add, again, like they said, just self-acceptance. You know, I was going through kind of a dark period just before I got to work on this, so it was really empowering just to have the ability to illustrate a story of this magnitude, um, and have it be like such a powerful lesson about self-love and self-empowerment. Um, yeah, it's That's all I got.
That's a lot.
A lot.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for bringing this book to us. Again, Little John Crow, there's a buy link in the chat there. You can pick it up at Greenlight or wherever you get your books. You can see a recording of this event on Greenlight's YouTube channel later on. And we so appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about Little John Crow today and for creating this beautiful, beautiful work of art.
Thank you.
Love
Thank
you.
you for
Thank
having
Thank
me.
you
guys.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for what you
Gordon.
do. Green light.
Thank you, Orly. Thank you,
Well,
Ziggy.
Respect,
Bye.
bro.
Have a good
Yeah.
one.
Say
Respect.
hi to your mom. Say hi to your mother for me there.
Yes, yes, of course. Oh, she says hi.
Yeah.
That's how she's over the moon about you guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
All right.
Have a
Take
great
care.
day.
Bye,
All
Jessica.
right.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Cool.